The other thing, Mike, I should say, I want to clarify this. The Miami Dolphins have the 29th pick in the draft this year. And so, their first pick is not the 50th pick overall. My only thought was, when I look at what Miami actually has this year, if I were the Saints, not only is this kind of a sketchy draft right at the top, but I would probably gamble that the Dolphins pick in a better draft would be a higher pick in 2023. And it would be probably a higher caliber player. And that's really what I meant by that I just don't see, if given the alternative, if I were Mickey Loomis, I would say, we don't want the 29th pick in a mediocre draft. That has some really good depth, third, fourth, fifth rounds, second round. But we would rather take our chances and take your one in 2023.
And as to the Dolphins' attempt to hire Payton, what we were going to report as of Monday morning was that the Dolphins were planning to attempt to do it, and the Flores lawsuit ended that. The Dolphins officially had no comment on the record, but Dolphins sources told me that they actually had contacted the Saints to request permission to talk to Payton. Between Payton's resignation and Flores filing his lawsuit, it was a 7-day stretch between the two, that they had made that request, and the request was denied. And that actually gave us more than what we came to the table with. And I was like, wow, okay, fine. We got something that even crystallizes this desire to get Sean Payton even more. And it necessarily undermines the coach they hired. They can say all they want about Mike McDaniel, but acknowledging that you made a phone call about trying to get Sean Payton suggests that McDaniel wasn't your top choice, that you wanted to explore Payton and the door was slammed in your face. I wonder why the Saints declined. Because I poked around yesterday.
That's why I'm skeptical.
The message from New Orleans. Yeah. The message from New Orleans was along the lines of, we never got that call. Well, why in the hell would the Dolphins acknowledge they made that call? Why would they? It benefits the Dolphins in no way to admit that they made that call. Why would they not say they made a call that complicates their lives if they say they made that call? That's what's weird to me, Peter.
Mike, it makes no sense for Mickey Loomis to say, we don't want a free high draft choice for a guy who's never going to coach our team again. Makes no sense whatsoever. And so that's why, and I in no way doubt anything that you wrote, but I'm a little skeptical that the call was made and the Saints said no. Just because pragmatically, if you look at every party involved in this story, look at every party. So let's say Miami does have an interest in Sean Payton, all right, and they place that phone call. Mickey Loomis knows, and Gail Benson knows, that Sean Payton is never going to coach their team again. And the fact is, they owe him all this money, and now maybe some of that money could be, depending on what part of the deal might be a part of that, what happens to all of the money that he passes up. And again, not that the Saints have to pay that, because obviously he walked away from that. But I just really wonder, what is the sense of New Orleans saying no? It doesn't ring true to me.
I've got two potential explanations for you. First, the Saints know they'll get more from Jerry Jones in 2023 or 2024 than whatever it was the Dolphins were willing to do to get Sean Payton. They'll be able to squeeze more out of Jerry Jones later. That's one reason to say no thank you to the Dolphins. The other reason, and this gets a little more complicated, and this gets into the why and how the door got shut on this effort by the Dolphins to get Payton and Brady. There's a thought out there that it was the league office that intervened. and said, this isn't happening. Now, I ran that by someone last week, and the response was, there's no way the league office would have simply said, no, you can't do this, because other teams would have insisted that the Dolphins be punished for tampering, because clearly they were talking to Brady. Clearly they were talking to Payton. And they're also in a position to violate the spirit, if not the letter of the Rooney Rule, by lining this thing up to get Payton when they're looking for a head coach and supposedly engaging in a diverse and inclusive search. But if the league office did it in a way where they didn't want to have to go after the Dolphins, they didn't want to have to announce to the world, hey, at a time when we're reeling from this lawsuit that Brian Florio has filed, we're going to announce to the world that we're stripping draft picks away from the Dolphins because they had their hand in the Rooney Rule cookie jar and they had their other hand in the tampering cookie jar. Two of the things raised by the Flores lawsuit, we caught them in the act of doing it right after the lawsuit was filed. So it could be that the mandate was given from on high to the Saints. This never happened. Now, the Dolphins didn't get that memo apparently, but so again, I'm trying to make sense out of something that doesn't make sense, because I'm telling you, the Dolphins will admit privately they made that call for Payton, and it does not benefit them to admit that. And if the Saints are taking the position the call didn't come, that just doesn't make sense. I agree with you. There has to be a reason for it. If the Saints really did get the call and said no thank you, and now they want to act like the call never came.
Okay. Involving your first point about the Cowboys, I would make one point about that, sort of a counterpoint. Let's say you don't really believe that Sean Payton is going to live the rest of his life on TV. Okay? Well, then that would be going contrary to discussions that he's had with a lot of people. That if I like TV, I don't want to drink Mountain Dew at 2 o'clock in the morning anymore to stay awake. If I like TV, I'm going to do it. I'm going to live a longer life, live an easier life, a lot more stress-free. Look, I did this for 15 years. I had a great life. And, but now let's move on. The only thing I would say, Mike, even if you don't believe that, you have to agree that, well, there's some chance, 20 or 30%, let's say, that Payton's not going to coach again. Let's just say. All right? And as it pertains to the Cowboys, are you sure that they're going 8-9 this year and they're going to whack Mike McCarthy and they're going to come after Sean Payton and they'll give you a 1 and a 3 for Payton? Are you sure about that? I mean, the Cowboys go 11-6 or whatever and win the division again. They're not firing Mike McCarthy. In other words, taking a first-round pick from the Miami Dolphins this year or next year is the bird in the hand. And I would say at best, there's a 50% chance that one day Jerry Jones will come with a better offer. There may not ever be an offer to give. That's all I'm saying about, your first, either or.
And look, I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just trying to make sense of two things that I've become aware of in the past 36 hours. The Dolphins will privately admit that they made the phone call to the Saints and permission was denied. The Saints' private position is the call never came. That is weird because it's against the interests of both parties involved to say what they're saying. And good luck making sense of that. Good luck making sense of anything nowadays in the National Football League.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.